is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting tonight live from Mogadishu, Somalia. Good evening. Everything is in place or will soon be in place for a massive invasion. And Americans thunderously made their presence known for the first time today as they methodically laid the foundation, land, sea, and air, for a complicated, bold gamble with the fate of two nations.
The first signs appeared in the sky this morning, sending a jolt of excitement through the city. Two US F-14 jets flew over Mogadishu, popping flares as they went. It's a standard reconnaissance mission that signals a landing soon. A crowd of Somalis gathered near the beach.
They have come to see the airplane landing in the airport.
The jets that came over?
Yeah.
What do they think will happen when the American soldiers arrive?
markii maxaa dhici doona haddii Amerikaanka inta uu yimaado
waa kusoo dhaweynayna.
They have come to welcome the American troops in Somalia.
Good American.
They are happy.
What? Good American.
Yeah, good American.
A Somali anti-aircraft vehicle of uncertain loyalty headed out of town. The thugs who rule the streets here are expected to make themselves scarce, at least in the early stages of the American presence. At the Mogadishu seaport, more signs of change. Grain was being loaded and moved for a second straight day after a 4-week blockade by the factional gunmen who controlled the port. Workers were suddenly busy putting up barricades to keep out looters, they said, when relief shipments go back into high gear. And an American diplomat suddenly appeared in Mogadishu to meet with representatives of relief organizations and stress that the Somali people have nothing to fear.
This is a humanitarian operation. It is not a military operation. It is the opposite of Desert Storm. We're going to go now to the Pentagon. CBS News Defense Department correspondent David Martin is following the plans for troop movements and strategies, so we switch live from Somalia, live to the Pentagon. David?
And this operation is about 24 hours away from kicking off, which means that if everything goes according to plan, Americans are going to be able to watch live and in prime time as U.S. Marines come ashore in Somalia.
1,800 Marines are waiting aboard ships just off the coast, ready to land sometime Wednesday morning, Tuesday night back here in the States. Within hours of the landing, the first U.S. transport aircraft will begin arriving at the Mogadishu airport, bringing in equipment and personnel needed to handle all the troops and material scheduled to follow. Much more material is aboard ships which will unload at the port in Mogadishu. The first of 16,000 Marines at Camp Pendleton, California, today began moving their equipment to a nearby Air Force base from where they will fly into Mogadishu about 24 hours after the airport is open.
Stamp it there, stamp it there, stamp it there, and stamp it there.
10,000 Army troops from the 10th Mountain Division will follow the Marines beginning this weekend. As always on the eve of a big operation, most troops can't wait to get going.
I think this is a much-needed mission, and probably should have been done a long time ago.
Most Americans support what the U.S. military is about to do. A CBS News poll shows 72% of those asked said the U.S. should be sending troops to Somalia. The only real doubt Americans seem to have is the same one Bush administration officials have. How long will U.S. troops have to stay? Officials say they hope to have the bulk of U.S. forces out of Somalia in 2 or 3 months. Most Americans think the troops will be there for 3 months or longer.
It is important to remember that while this is a mission of mercy, it involves taking physical control of large parts of Somalia, and occupying another country, no matter how noble the purpose, is always risky business. Dan?
A point that needs to be emphasized, David. David, what is General Colin Powell and the Defense Department's greatest concern?
I think right now the greatest worry is gridlock in Mogadishu. That airport and that harbor have to be turned into 24-hour-a-day operations, and the equipment and personnel that come in there either have to be put to work immediately improving the port in the airfield or moved out into the countryside to start the job of feeding the starving. And if things start backing up in Mogadishu, this operation is going to get real messy real fast. Dan?
David, thanks. And speaking of moving out into the countryside, one of the most pressing situations facing the U.S. military as it moves into Somalia is in a town west of here in what I call the Triangle of Death, the town of Baidoa. We know that the Army plans to base part of its operations there not long after the Marines land. Now, this is an area where 3 clans have been battling for supremacy. 60 people were killed in Baidoa today, and that follows a weekend when more than 20 were killed. CBS News correspondent Dr. Bob Arnott has a report on the wounded in this war of the warlords.
Fighting going on in town, the main road is not safe.
It was a bloody day in Baidoa.
He had a gunshot wound through the shoulder.
Well, these 2 have been shot.
Gunshot wound through the right groin and leg.
In this marketplace, 20 died. 40 were injured by bullets and shrapnel. Most were innocent bystanders to a firefight between rival clans.
The Marines can't come fast enough for the doctors and nurses at the International Medical Corps Hospital here in Baidoa. With patients like this lined up for surgery, the last of their supplies are almost gone.
In the operating room, Raymond Pollock, a physician's assistant, is the chief surgeon. He performs emergency war surgery under the most primitive conditions.
So how close to sterile technique have you got here?
Well, considering I have a butcher's apron on, no gowns, no drapes, about as close to the Civil War as you could get, I imagine.
Hardest hit are the children.
Well, there you go. She had a bomb blast to her chest, and she's had a chest tube in place. And we thought we were going to lose her because we don't have the proper equipment.
There are few children to be seen in Baidoa anymore. Most under 5 are already dead. Mohammed's eye was blown from his face. He's 1 year old.
This is a bomb blast?
Yeah, part of the shooting today.
The children's pediatrician, Mickey Risher, is more saint than doctor.
She had a bomb blast and had her leg. She's got an awful fracture and draining pus. So, but mother wasn't around. She didn't have any blood, and she was bleeding out. So I decided I would give some blood for this little girl.
Like all the doctors and nurses of the International Medical Corps, Mickey Risher is paid in unexpected ways.
To see the happiness on their faces, to see the kids walk out of here. We have kids carried and then end up walking out. That's great, actually.
Operation Restore Hope is too late for most of Baidoa's young children, but it may be the last hope for those who remain. Dr. Bob Arnott, CBS News, Baidoa.
Tonight, pictures and sounds that burn to the brain and heart from another place in the Triangle of Death. This one south and west of here in Bardera. This is not the place of the worst suffering in the country, only the worst that relief workers can safely get into. CBS News correspondent Alan Tizzy has our report, photographed by CBS cameraman Kurt Huffler.
Alone in helpless misery, she represents uncounted thousands. Even though she is in a refugee camp, a stone's throw from a feeding center, she is dying. Only those strong enough to come through the food have a chance of survival. This area is so insecure that there aren't enough relief workers to reach those who can no longer move. This intensive feeding center is about to run out of supplies that make the difference between death and a slim chance for life.
For a lot of people, it's unfortunately far too late for them. But for the others who are on that brink at the moment, where if we can get enough food to them, enough supplementary food, then that can really save their lives. You can save thousands of lives. But it needs to be done within the next few weeks.
The rains that have brought life to the parched landscape are a curse to the refugees. The cooler temperatures that come with rain speed up killer diseases such as tuberculosis. The effect of severe malnutrition is much like AIDS, a breakdown of the body's ability to resist illness. They still die here at the rate of up to 170 a day. But that's a vast improvement on only a few weeks ago, when the death rate was nearly double that.
This is the worst situation aid agencies are dealing with at the moment, but it's not the worst there is. Uncounted thousands of starving people are trapped in areas where relief workers can't go because it's too dangerous.
For the same reason, people who have made it back from the edge of starvation can't leave here for farms that ought to be planted now, intended for the next 6 months. And that means another cycle of famine, another turn of the wheel of despair, more deaths that relief workers are helpless to stop.
I felt that he wanted somebody to be with him. He put his hand out towards me as much as I did towards him, I think. So it's some sort of hope, I think, for both of us.
But for 7-year-old Harida Muhammad, there is no hope. She may be dead by now. She will certainly be dead by the time the Marines arrive. Her mother said it was God's fault. Alan Fizzy, CBS News, Bardera, Somalia.
I'll be back with more from Somalia in a moment.
Norelco says don't shave your legs, baby them. With Norelco's incredibly close, comfortable shave that leaves you baby smooth, baby soft. Norelco Lady Shave Razors, dry or wet, we make close comfortable.
Every second of an asthma attack can feel like an eternity. That's why there's Primatene Mist. Primatene opens clogged breathing tube fast when speed counts. Primatene Mist, fastest high asthma relief without a prescription.
At Ford Motor Company, we don't just build quality cars and trucks.
Customer Assistance Center, how may I
We
help you?
build relationships. Our Customer Assistance Department assists over 4,000 people a day on everything from warranties to how to program a keyless entry system. It's part of a whole philosophy at Ford that's rapidly changing the ownership experience.
Well, it's important proof that you're happy with your car. Thanks for calling Ford.
Ford Motor Company. Quality is job one.
It's working.
It's working.
Dan Rather back in Somalia. Many of America's sons and daughters are now packing up and heading out to risk their lives here in Somalia. Giselle Fernandez is covering troop preparations at Fort Drum in upstate New York. This is to be the largest Army contingent in the operation.
In upstate New York, along the icy Black River, Watertown, home to Fort Drum, has fast turned itself into a festive winter village. It's a gift for the soldiers before they're swept away to the hot sands of Somalia. At the Salmon Run Mall, soldiers are rushing to put holiday snapshots of their kids in their wallets. They're rushing to buy quick gifts. But this is where the rush was really on.
I, with the authority invested in me, pronounce your husband and wife. You may kiss the bride.
Rushing to the altar, rushing every part of the season, obviously comes from uncertainty. None of the 10,000 soldiers based here know exactly when they'll be deployed. They just know it could be any day now. And that means families who wanted to spend some part of the holiday together had to call in Santa Claus a little early.
Oh, man.
Yeah. 4-year-old Dontel Sharpless opened all of his presents last night. He knows his dad is going away soon.
Leaving, it's going to be hard, but I have a commitment, and my family do understand that my commitment comes first.
But not without sacrifice or tears from those left behind.
Christmas Day, we're going to be here by ourselves. So it's just a family thing.
It seems all military families here in Watertown are trying to hold on to every last second. The timing is bittersweet.
Just got here, just got married. Christmas. But it's duty.
And here, patriotism goes a long way, as does pride. Pride in the mission that this small town hopes will show the rest of the world what the true meaning of Christmas is really all about. Giselle Fernandez, CBS News, Watertown, New York.
I'll have much more about Somalia later in the broadcast, but right now let's go to New York and Connie Chung with some of the day's other news. Connie?
Thank you, Dan. President-elect Clinton is getting ready to make his first cabinet appointments. We'll have a report on that and the Clintons return to Washington in a moment.
Give me one good reason to try new Serenity with Dry Layer Plus. Hugs. Johnson & Johnson. This new blue layer. Only Serenity has it. Pulls the wetness in quicker, away from my skin. Definitely drier. The alternative? The Plus. Odor protection. I want that. drier, fresher. That just feels cleaner.
New Dry Layer Plus, another good reason to love Serenity Guards from Johnson & Johnson.
Her name is Sarah, and she's lucky, because today she'll encounter egrets doing dances and alligators in the wild. She'll see how other moms take care of their kids, and she'll be doing this, recycling, through a program of the National Park Service and its recycling partner, Dow.
We can make a difference in what tomorrow brings.
Together with the National Park Service and folks like Sarah.
Dow lets you do great things.
Well, you can go to a department store and get a nice designer suit, or you can go to the Men's Warehouse, get the same designer suit for a lot less money. That's a tough choice, isn't it?
At the Men's Warehouse, the difference is the lower price. I guarantee it.
Yeah, we're gonna sweat. Tater twisters, fix a flat. Cut some shapes, some curly fries.
Presto Tater Twister Electric Curly Cutter. Money-saving curly cuts from fresh vegetables. Spiral cuts, too. Thrifty, easy fun.
Tater Twister.
From Presto.
All they want is your car, if you're lucky.
There was a gun right in my face.
Steal that car. An all-new 48 Hours Wednesday.
Bloody violence erupted in India today between Hindus and Muslims. There was rioting in dozens of cities across the country. More than 200 people were killed. The Indian government ordered troops to restore order and said it would ban radical groups of both religions. The rioting began after thousands of Hindu militants demolished an ancient Muslim mosque, claiming it was built on a Hindu holy site. The government says it will try to rebuild the mosque. The Supreme Court refused today to reinstate John Poindexter's conviction in the Iran-Contra cover-up. Poindexter was President Reagan's national security advisor. A lower court threw out the conviction, ruling that testimony Poindexter gave Congress under a grant of immunity was used against him at his trial. President-elect Clinton is back in Washington, his second visit since the election. Again, there is speculation about who his first cabinet choices will be, but this time there's some criticism as well. Correspondent Susan Spencer is on the Clinton watch.
Clinton, the one-time outsider, arrived in Washington tonight, braced for a full day of courting Washington, scheduled to meet with both old and new members of Congress tomorrow. Total secrecy still reigns about his cabinet choices. The transition office is literally awash in resumes from people whose message is simply, well, how about me? Expect announcement this week at least of the economic team, a team led by Texas Senator Lloyd Benson at Treasury, his likely deputy, investment banker Roger Altman. House Budget Chief Leon Panetta runs at the head of the pack for Budget Director. Economist Alice Rivlin still has a shot at an economic job, but only a long shot. So much, say some disgruntled women's groups, for a cabinet that looks like America.
Clinton appears to have a bit of a political problem on his hands. He has built expectations about having a very diverse cabinet, and yet the highest priority is on getting the economic team together.
To solve that problem, appointments of women may be mixed in this week. Some possibilities: University of Wisconsin Chancellor Donna Shalala for Education or Health and Human Services. Judge Patricia Wald for Attorney General. Congresswoman Jill Long for Agriculture. And former Vermont Governor Madeline Kunin for head of the Environmental Protection Agency.
We have excellent people in all categories, so there's just absolutely no need to say, oh, well, we have to take lesser people because we need female people. Please.
The topic could be high on the agenda tomorrow when Clinton meets with new House members. The House is now 10% female. But aides say not to worry. A cabinet that looks like America is a promise that Clinton promises to keep. Susan Spencer, CBS News, Washington.
Comedian Dana Carvey has made a career out of imitating President Bush each week on Saturday Night Live. He apparently made quite an impression on Mr. Bush, and that earned Carvey an invitation to today's White House Christmas party.
I was staying in a Lincoln bedroom last night, and I couldn't resist getting on the phone, and I called up the Secret Service as the president. Feel like going jogging tonight? In the nude. The way to do the president is to start out with Mr. Rogers. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Then you add a little John Wayne. Here we go. Let's go over the ridge. You put them together. You got George Herbert Walker Bush. That's the thing there.
Well, nobody's laughing about this. The U.S. national debt Time now for our weekly update. At last report, the United States of America owes more than $4,133 billion. Your share, $16,535. That's the news here at home. Dan Rather will be back in a moment with more from Somalia.
Most of the Earth's surface is covered by water, which means most of the Earth is covered by Princess. No cruise line sails more ships to more ports of call worldwide than Princess, because it's more than a cruise. It's the love boat.
Good morning. Merry Christmas. I'll make coffee. Little dreams are about to come true. Good cheer. Good season. Folgers wakes up the best in you. Good time. Good feeling. And the magic that's always brand new. Folgers wakes up the best in you. Opening hearts, opening eyes, opening up that special surprise. Folgers wakes up the best in you.
The Remington microscreen shaves as close as a blade or your money back. 2 flexible screens let you shave whiskers below skin level. It's quick, smooth, comfortable. A great value. The Remington microscreen.
As Operation Restore Hope hits home, so do the realities of civil war in Somalia. Dr. Bob Arnott reports live from the front lines tomorrow on CBS This Morning.
Think of Somalia as split into 3 separate parts, each the turf of a clan or private army leader, a warlord. 2 are centered here in the capital city. The 3rd is in that triangle of death, south and west of here. Mogadishu is split a bit like Berlin and Beirut used to be, a city divided down the middle. The warlords have their armed followers run around in armed vehicles of sorts such as this one, 4-wheel drive, automatic weapon on the roof. Today, an American diplomat and a U.S. Marine general came here to meet separately with the 2 leaders, whose armed followers have turned Mogadishu into a killing zone. General Mohammed Adid controls the southern part of the capital and much of the surrounding country. He's a military man and a former diplomat who has been in the thick of Somali politics for decades. Now, he says he welcomes a role for the U.S. military.
We will protect the American troops during their activities, humanitarian activities in the country. This is our interest, and that's why we welcome them, and we will do our best to help during their stay in Somalia.
You think 1 year from now American troops will be here?
In the future?
Yes.
I hope they will be as long as we need them in our country.
General Adid's rival is Mohammed Ali Monti, a former hotel businessman. He was named, quote, interim president when the government collapsed 2 years ago, but he's been unable to put together anything like a new government. Now, he too welcomes the Americans and says they'll be in no danger.
I don't think because the Somali people realize it after 2 years of fighting. They know what it means to fight. Today, they want only the peace. And every person who brings peace, they will give hand, I'm sure.
How long do you think the U.S. troops will be here? 1 month? 2 months? How long?
I stated it before. I think it will take, of course, if we work properly, it might 4 or 5 months.
4 or 5 months?
4 or 5 months. To do all of this travel, which I have mentioned it will take 4 or 5 months.
The man who calls himself the interim president of Somalia, what some others call a faction leader, told us today that he was helping to get the heaviest weapons off the streets of the capital city. I asked him, could we see them? And he said yes, and we were brought here. And indeed, a lot of the heavier weapons have been brought in here. Anti-tank weapons from China, anti-aircraft weapons back here, more anti-tank weapons, 75 millimeter, another Chinese 106. Around the yard, see an armored personnel carrier here, another over there. All of this by way of trying to indicate to the troops, says the man who calls himself the interim president, that he intends for the American troops to be as safe as possible, and he intends this to be the beginning of peace in his country.
My hemorrhoids hurt so much, I was afraid I needed surgery. But my doctor said they weren't serious, and it's time I used Preparation H.
Because in a recent 100,000-mile independent test, the Oldsmobile Achiever incurred lower total cost than either. Now, aren't you glad you didn't zap this? It's your money.
Shoot some slices, shoot some shreds, shoot some salad, 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 salad shooter.
Presto Salad Shooter Slicer Shredder. Point and shoot right where you want. Clean up easy, dishwasher safe, store anywhere.
Salad shooter.
Original and professional salad shooter.
Help to someone listening. Help to someone here. Can somebody take the pain and make it disappear?
Finally, someone understands all pain is not the same.
What the hell, where it hurts?
Introducing new aspirin-free Bayer Select.
What the hell, where it hurts?
Yes, aspirin-free.
What the hell, where it hurts? With Bayer Select.
Bayer Select is not one, but 5 different aspirin-free formulas for 5 different kinds of pain. Sinus, headache, nighttime, menstrual, and arthritis pain. Because all pain is not the same.
What the hell, where it hurts? With Bayer Select.
The pictures you have seen, the sounds you have heard of children starving in Somalia are part of the reason for the American effort here, but not the whole reason. Children are starving many places because of war, weather, and politics. But in Somalia, there is nothing left of nationhood. This is a shattered society, a whole culture in catastrophe. There is no government, no law, no work, no hope, no mercy. Nothing left to hang on to. That's why the Yanks are coming. That's why people welcome them. In the end, it may or may not work. But soon, Somalia will have something to hang on to. CBS News will cover step by step the effort to save Somalia and what it means to this ruined country and our own United States of America. From Mogadishu, Somalia, Dan Rather reporting. Good night.
Experience CBS News.
Next on Hard Copy, when his wife was